I'm Rob and this is Pete from Sand Sherpa. We operate desert adventures out here in the UAE. We're checking out the new Toyota Hilux vehicles. This is the new Adventure model that literally just came out earlier this year. And this is our first shakedown really where we're taking them off-road. I mean, Pete, you've been driving this now for a couple of days. What do you think about it, driving it on the road?
We've had a fleet of the older Hilux, yeah? So we've been running those for like 4 or 5 years. And the most favorite part I fancy now is the automatic transmission, you know. I think that's a huge leap forward. And yeah, I really enjoy driving it.
I mean, one of the game changers for the Hilux is that obviously previously you had to be a company to register one of these vehicles because they're commercial cars. But not only that, but actually when you think about it, they are really suited to commercial applications. They haven't been suited up until now for private individuals to own. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One is the engine. I mean, what engine is it in the standard one, Pete?
2.7.
So it's a 2.7 petrol. So it's good that it's naturally aspirated. It's good that it doesn't use turbos. We've had problems in the past with turbo vehicles, particularly operating in this heat. But it doesn't have the power, obviously, that we need to be driving in the soft sand, and also probably to be pulling the trailers as well, right?
Yeah. I think, well, the FJ Cruiser has the same engine as this one.
Yeah.
And that's been super reliable.
Yeah.
300,000 kilometers. We haven't had a single issue with it, so hopefully we get the same with these ones.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, you know, especially when we were looking, I mean, that 4-litre V6 that it's actually got under the hood is a proven power plant. It's not only been used, obviously, in the FJ Cruiser, but also the Land Cruiser, the 79 series, the Fortuner, the Prado. So actually, you know, we're seeing that power plant that's been used across a whole range of Toyota vehicles. It's not a new engine, but it has proven its reliability. Probably on the minus side is its fuel efficiency, and obviously when we took the first couple of vehicles, the sticker rating I think was like, you know,
the worst of the lot, right?
It was poor. 9.6 I think it was, 9.6 litres per 100 kilometres. However, it's not also the Nissan Patrol, right? I mean, the Nissan Patrol's again a naturally aspirated engine, 4.8 litre, and that one, you know, we've had before, and it guzzles.
I think with our what we plan to do with them, it ticks many boxes.
Sorry Pete, would you mind just killing that engine? Something that I was a little bit worried about initially is this approach angle. Obviously we have at the front bumper. I've seen that there's two models of this. There's the Adventure and there's the Adventure X. And the Adventure X actually is slightly lifted and it's got bigger tyres on it, and it's got you know, a couple of different off-road accessories with it. However, obviously we chatted about that and we decided that the best thing for us was to go with the standard version. If we need to upgrade, we'll do the ones that are particular to us. So the approach angles is something for us to look at today when we're going off-road. The other thing that I've been quite surprised at for a vehicle that actually is obviously billed as an adventure model, it's billed as an all-terrain vehicle.
The freeway tyres.
Yeah, I mean, these desert jewelers, they've got HT written on the side, that means highway tyres. Right. They're not all-terrain. And they're smooth on the road, there's no noise, they're fantastic, but man, I'm a little bit worried about how they're going to perform today in the sands. The alloys look great, these kind of, you know, almost sawtooth looking rims, they're really cool. I think we're going to have to be a little bit careful with the customers when they get stuck in the sand and we're digging, we don't take chips out of that nice,
scratch them and
beautiful,
damage them a bit, you know?
That beautiful black enamel. So I guess we're going to have to get busy digging before giving the spade to the customer, particularly while we look after it in the beginning. The other aspect with this that obviously we note is the fact that it's not a solid axle vehicle, it's got independent front suspension. Normally with a really heavy duty off-road vehicle, you know, we'd prefer maybe to have the solid axles. But you know, the Hilux is quite proven. We'll see how that works. A lot of the cars these days are independent front suspension. But you know, I guess time will tell on that particular front. The other thing about this is that the ride's very tough. It's quite, you know, hard riding vehicle, so you know it's very firm.
We throw a few things in the back to weight it down a bit,
yeah, exactly. On the back, obviously we've got leaf springs. So the reason it's got leaf springs is it's most efficient to obviously have heavy loads in the back without completely sinking down, you know, the normal tubular suspension.
Before we go there to the back, what about these running boards? What do you think? Of the running boards here, do you think they're going to give us issues?
The running boards look a little bit flimsy, I'll be honest. They're great to go and step in and out of the vehicle, but in terms of the attachments, they're not that solid. But again, we'll see how they go. I mean, as a standard vehicle, it comes with some nice touches. As I said, there's a couple of things that don't quite match. So you've got your highway tyres, and then you've got your space for a flag, that you've got for your off-road driving, basically stuck on the back of your rear of your pickup. I quite like the tray coming integrated. It's a nice tray. It's a shame, obviously, we're going to have the canopy on the top, so that's going to go. But again, some of the things, obviously they're catering to a consumer with this, but it makes it a little bit impractical in certain ways. And I will have a look at the back of this truck in just a second.
So what, this was for construction guys or for Joe Blogs at home who wants to pack something in the back and keep it safe?
Yeah, I think it's just more of your everyday truck. It's nice to have the lining inside. So they put the bed lining in, which looks great, and they put obviously the cover on. It loses a little bit of space at the front because obviously that's the kind of housing that the roller goes in. But also let's take a look at the bed of this truck, because we're actually losing quite a bit of space with this liner. So if we see here, and you put your finger in to the actual edge of the bed of the truck, you've got like a whole finger on each side that you're basically losing in terms of the width. And it's the same at the front. I mean, you can't really see that with the hole, but I've done some measurements actually at the front of the truck, and we're losing a bit of space within the bed. And obviously this is the load, this is the working end of the truck that you really need to use properly.
I guess the rationale behind this is that if you do bump it, push it, poke it with something heavy, it's got a space before it starts denting the bin, I guess. But I don't know why. Yeah. It's a good point. Eh?
It's great they've got the tie down points built in.
Yeah.
They're quite nice and tidy in terms of those tie down points.
There's 4 of them.
There's 4 of them, 2 at the front. Okay, I mean another.
Sorry, Rob. It changed from this model from the models that we have that we've been working. Is they've got these latches here. So this is quite a nice touch that they've upgraded, which is obviously like a handle.
Yeah. I mean, we asked for tow hitches.
So they didn't come standard with.
They didn't come standard, and actually, this was the first time that the local Toyota dealer had installed a tow hitch on this particular model. Obviously, you can see at the moment that it's set up for recovery, so we've put a bow shackle that basically slides in on a receiver hitch. And the reason that we've done that is also, there were 2 reasons I mentioned that we got the tow hitch. One was obviously to pull our camping trailers, right, practical purposes. The second is there's no recovery point on the back of this car.
Seems crazy, actually.
It's nuts. I mean, when you look underneath, there's just literally nothing linked to the chassis, the frame, that you'd be able to pull from. So, you know, from time to time, an adventure vehicle gets stuck, and you need to have a recovery point.
Well, you either get stuck or you're going to recover your mate.
And
then you would recover, not always from the front of your vehicle, if you were the recovery guy.
Yeah.
You know? So it seems a bit odd.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, this was pretty. I mean, it looks like a robust tow hitch. It wasn't crazy expensive. It surprised me that it didn't come with electrics. That wasn't even something that I thought about when we ordered it.
Oh, for the trailer, for the lights, etc.
Yeah. So electrics is definitely something that we need to add in. But obviously, it's funny. Obviously, this is a particular vehicle that's built for the GCC. I think this is the Revo model in South Africa and Thailand and everywhere else. I don't know if there's any changes to that, but it's certainly something for people to check to see whether...
Right. If they want that as an application when they buy the vehicle, you know?
Yeah.
What about the X? Does the X have those options available to it, you know?
It doesn't. I mean, it has the towing point that you can obviously install as an option, but it doesn't have anything as standard. All right, so we'll have a look underneath, and we've got 2 towing points basically attached to the chassis at the front.
That's good.
So these are all good. You know, we're great at the front end, but as we know, the typical way that you recover people is usually from the back, because it's usually when you're progressing, you're going up a dune, you're stuck on the top, and typically the easiest way to recover a vehicle is the way that it's come from, because there's already established tracks. You know, so we're not very rarely pulling people that are actually stuck at the front of the vehicle. So that tow point at the back is going to be really essential for us.
It is quite close to the front bumper, but I think with the soft shackle we should be good there.
Yeah, that's also a good point in terms of choosing your recovery method, because there's quite a lot of plastic that's under there and also in contact with that recovery point. So a bow shackle, a bigger one, is going to start, you know, rubbing against the plastic. So the soft shackle is important, and we do actually have one of those today just in case one of us gets stuck. Okay, first of all, thank you for the Falcon cap. I think that fits very nicely on the gear stick. Some nice little accessories that we've added on. I'm probably, you know, a relatively standard size, except for the fact that I've probably got a longer upper body and shorter legs. a little bit ape-like. The seating position, I mean, we sit with our drivers when we're doing coaching, when we're doing, you know, the courses. One of the things that we say is, look, sit in the car, get comfortable. And a good way to show that you're comfortable and you're in command, you're in the cockpit, you've got command of the steering wheel, is just to put your wrist on top of the steering wheel. So this is where I'm comfortable. In fact, sorry, I did move the seat back a little bit to allow for some filming, but let's go. This is where I would kind of feel comfortable driving. And if I try to do that, I actually can't get my wrist on top of the steering wheel. So there is actually an adjuster just underneath. There's a manual adjuster, so you can pull it in and out. But the range of motion is really limited. So this is at the top and this is as far back as it goes. So in order to put my wrist on top of the steering wheel, as we would obviously coach our husband, so I'm moving the seat forward, but that's kind of where it's at. And now look at where my legs are, my knees are up here, I'm crunched over the steering wheel, I'm very close to the kind of airbag. It's not really ideal. So I mean, I might be able to experiment with that, and I have done a little bit by lowering the seat right down. But I like to be a little bit higher up in the vehicle, particularly when you're driving in the sand. You want to go and look at the corners.
I do too, actually. I prefer that higher elevated feel when I'm looking over the bonnet, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, let's go and talk about the headroom a little bit, which is perfect, obviously, at the front. We can raise and lower the seat really nicely. I like the fact that the seats are manual, so they're not electric. There's less to go wrong with the vehicle. One of the things these days with all the electronics that are in the modern cars, there's just more stuff to go wrong, and we've seen it before. I've driven Land Rovers through Oman and had all sorts of issues with this. The reason that we're going for the Toyota, the reason that we're going for the proven power plant, and the reason that we're going for the Hilux is to not have those headaches.
And often in the sand, I think it's just these like fine particles, these fine grains of sand that sometimes get into small little nooks and crannies, and it's just annoying, you know, because the buttons stop working and stuff. But as you say, as a manual, you've got manual levers, I think it should be good.
After that. Beauty of this is that you go and grab your phone, you stick it straight onto this pad, and it recharges your phone for you. I mean, it's magic.
It's really good actually, and it's just like a cordless magnet charger, you know.
I think that's one of the real pluses. And obviously, a lot of vehicles now are coming with modern in-car entertainment systems. The stereo in this is good.
It's good.
The phone interaction is good.
It works well, yes. It does.
I was quite excited about Apple CarPlay and the Android applications. I've not tried the Android because I don't have one. But in terms of the Apple, I just can't get this thing to work.
I haven't figured it out either. I think we've got to download an app, which then allows us to go in and mirror your phone.
Yeah.
But it has been challenging. I even YouTubed it.
Yeah.
I tried to figure that part out, and I still haven't got it right. Yeah.
I don't know. That's a frustration. I mean, to be honest, it's not a game changer because our customers aren't really going to be in the car long enough to be downloading apps and doing other stuff. We want them to learn how to 4x4 drive. And obviously, you know, the same with our team, they're not really going to be messing around with this. But if it was your own car...
Right, and if you're buying it from the showroom, I'd probably set this up in the showroom before I drive out. But before we leave this part of the car, all of this is a major upgrade from the previous version.
Yeah.
It's more car-like, it's more sort of comfortable. It's nice to see the diff lock in the rear there.
I mean, it's great. Obviously, we've got the transfer box. We wouldn't have bought it without that. But also the rear locking diff, which is common on quite a few of the Toyotas, but not necessarily on a lot of other vehicles. We had an LR4 in the fleet previously, and it didn't have that. That was an HD option that, you know, was in a few vehicles that were brought into this region. But being able to lock that rear diff is really good. And obviously, you've got a few tools at your disposal. If you're in high, you get stuck, you can stick it into low range. We've got the rear locking diff before we start getting out the spade or worrying about the ropes. So that's a really cool thing that obviously you have a standard within the vehicles. I kind of like also having the start-stop, just having the remote key. Yeah. You know, that's nice. Most cars have it. It's a bit of a given. My old Defender doesn't. But, you know, I think every modern vehicle now should have that. Something we're going to have to be a little bit careful of is customers taking the key out of the car. Right. Particularly as in soft sand, we've had it happen before. Someone drops them and they're gone. So
cruise control is another great addition on this version, which they don't have on the previous one, which during highway work and going up and down to the desert, I mean, it's just a nice luxury.
Everything's within access. It's nice. Also, there's quite a few tools in terms of fuel consumption and different things that you can select actually on the dashboard.
There's some good space inside there.
Yeah, it is. There's some good space. You can pack a lot of stuff in there. Decent sized glove box as well. Something else that I really actually appreciate is all of the different places for cups. I mean, this one's a bit oversized, but we've got two cup holders here, and then on either side of the truck you've actually got ones that slide out here too as well, and you've got ones in the door, so it's kind of good to have.
It's a nice cockpit, eh? I think
it is.
You can feel comfortable in here, you know.
It is. Let's check out the back and then we'll go for a drive.
I mean, this is okay for me. I mean, I'm a larger guy, you know, than the average, but I'm not the tallest guy, and I think I'll be kind of comfortable in here. I think if we put a car seat with a kid, might be a bit challenging.
Yeah, I had one of my mates that came over the other night, and I asked him to sit in the back, 6'3", and he was actually just about okay. So I think maybe you and I are, as I said before, slightly longer upper bodies. Maybe. And at the end of the day, this was a commercial vehicle. Yes, they've made it a bit more comfortable, but you still feel in the back a little bit more like it's you know, your crew working on a site. I mean, that's one of the good things. I mean, you mentioned about the FJ, because we have done some, you know, wildlife safaris using the FJ Cruiser, and one of the challenges with that is the small windows in the back, so people don't really get the sense. I'm just going to close the door a second on you.
Okay,
But yeah, the windows here are quite large. As we said, it's not the perfect article, but honestly, like, when we look at the market, we wanted that naturally aspirated engine. We wanted something that was a decent power plant that's going to take us through the sand, that's going to go and pull the trailers. We want something that's going to work off-road, and we want something that's comfortable for our guests. And we ideally wanted it in the package of a pickup truck. So really, the choices came down to, as a mid-size pickup, it came down to the Hilux or the Ranger. But the game changer for us was that 4-litre V6 that's inside this, and the upgrades that they've done inside to make it suitable for our customers. I think that's what I'm pretty excited about, and I like the look of the vehicle. So normally what we're doing is we're speaking by radio, but as there's just the two of us today, we're just making do obviously with the traditional hands-free kit, so it's another thing for us to test on the car. So you're coming through, you can hear me okay, Pete?
Sounds perfect for you, actually.
Okay, perfect. Great. So what we're going to do, we'll drive a little bit off-road down some desert tracks, which is what we do for about 50% of our drive when we're in the nature reserve, and then we'll go a little bit off-piste and see how it goes in the kind of uncut part of the dunes, and we'll see then. But at the moment we're just having a little bit of a feel for the car off-road. It's floating along. I mean, I was a little bit worried when I looked at those highway tyres, because they hadn't deformed too much when we deflated them, but they seem to be running fine at the moment.
Mine feels good. I think the car is quite a light car. They don't sink as deep,
Yeah, I think that's actually the key, is the fact that it is such a light vehicle. And again, we'll see once we start loading it up with passengers and stuff, but generally the feel's good. It actually feels a lot better than I thought.
Yeah, I'm following directly in your tracks, right? So, and they're not leaving those big channels like the LR4 did or the Ram does.
Yeah, no, that's good to know. That's good to know. I'm loving this area where we can obviously see the road and the dunes and everything. Nature meeting civilization. It's pretty cool.
I think they wanted to build one of the communities here, I think.
Yeah.
And then obviously ran out of funding or whatever it was.
Yeah. I could just hear that those leaf springs, one of the things with leaf springs is they make a little bit of noise as the plates kind of rub together. It's something to get used to. You know, I was thinking then, just as I went over that dune and could hear the slight creak, whether that was the traction control kicking in. But I think actually it's just the leaf springs slightly rubbing together as they come under stress and then getting released.
Yeah. I flipped my traction control off, what I thought was off, but I'm noticing the light shining occasionally, so I think the car needs to be stationary when you hold the button down for 5 seconds.
Really? Let's try that again. Let's just stop and then see if that's the case.
Yeah, good.
So put it in park, and then we'll hold down the traction control button.
5 seconds.
5 seconds.
There we go. Okay. And then the light by the rev counter illuminates, and then you know you are good.
Maybe that sound where I thought it was the leaf springs was actually the traction control interfering with the vehicle. So we'll see how that goes now. But that's a good observation.
It makes like a grinding sound, I think.
Yeah.
When the traction control kicks in.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing with sand is, you know, traction control is great on different types of surfaces depending on the type of off-roading that you're doing. So if you're in gravel and you're in rock, sometimes you want that traction control to kick in. But in the sand, the tyres are constantly spinning, they're constantly moving. You've got, you know, a surface that you're sliding on, like skiing. So the last thing that you want is anything interfering with your wheels, brakes coming on, you know, engine power being adjusted by electronics. That's not what we want. So it's good to have traction control completely off. So I think we've achieved that. Let's see how the cars drive with that adjustment made.
On the traction control point, it's a double whammy, because you also want your brakes to be aggressive. You know, you want your brakes to work as they should. You don't want the brakes you don't want to be interfered with when you're hitting the brakes. And when your traction control is on, you don't always have 100% braking power, and that's also challenging in the sand, you know.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons that obviously we came out to a different location today is that obviously within the reserve we stick to tracks and we stick very strict, you know, to a strict speed limit. Obviously out here now when we're testing them, we do want to go a little bit more off piste, so we're doing that outside of the reserve. We're still not going to go crazy, that's not what we do. We say to all of our customers, and we say to people that come out with us, you know, we don't want to go dune bashing. The only thing that gets bashed is the cars and nature. So what we want to try and do is show, you know, environmental exploration that's been done in a very considerate way. So we're not going to be going nuts in the dunes, we're not going to be driving like buggies, but at the same time we want to see that these vehicles are capable and will do the job when we need to. I mean, sometimes we're operating in the reserve, sometimes we're operating in leeward. We have different types of terrain that we need to tackle, and some are more difficult than others, and obviously our vehicles need to be able to tackle all of that.
Good. Also playing with this power mode switch, which is on the center console below the eco mode. This is interesting. It sort of keeps the rev up high before changing gear. So I guess it's a bit like a tow mode. Some of the other vehicles might be useful.
Okay. Yeah, just on the center of the console here, we've got a couple of different modes. Eco mode, which obviously for highway driving, it's good to obviously minimize your fuel consumption. So we'll be doing that when we're doing a lot of highway miles to go and keep the expenses down. But the power mode here, when we depress that button, it tends to hold a gear for a little bit longer, and again just giving, I believe, a little bit more power to the engine. I did experiment with that on the road and I didn't notice much difference. We'll also experiment with the manual use of the gears. At the moment we've just left it in auto, which obviously is what most people will do. We know from driving through trickier terrains, particularly when we're in deep sand, we're in leeward, we only put it in manual, we don't keep it in auto. But we're just putting it now just to see how it performs. The ideal thing, particularly for the inexperienced, is for them to get in the car, to be looking at the terrain, to be looking at the dunes, to be picking their line, not worrying about what gear that they're actually in. Obviously, as people become more experienced, to get the best out of the car, you do need to put it into manual mode. So we'll see how responsive that is and how quick the gear changes are when we give that a try in just a few minutes.
The FJ Cruiser, for example, has, I think, when it holds it in second gear, it doesn't allow it to go past second gear, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, we don't have it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to try with the information button, because obviously at the moment it's, oh, there we go. So before I had traction control turned off, and that's all I could see on the center console. By pressing the menu button, now it goes back onto traction control off. That's interesting. So actually all I can really get once I've turned traction control off is that warning that's, you know, in your face, that's telling me that it's off. You know, I guess that's good in a way in case you forget, but you know, it's a little bit frustrating for us now because there's other things that you want to see on a longer off-road drive than just seeing the fact that your traction control button's turned off. And one thing that I will say is that obviously we're driving now, it's summertime, so during summer the sand is actually a little bit softer than it is at other times of the year. We don't have many tracks around here. The cars are just, you know, carving through it like it's nothing. It's really nice and easy. And the suspension feels good.
Yeah, and it looks good from the back. It's not sort of flipping or sort of fishtailing, like, looks really solid from here.
And as we're driving now, obviously what we're looking at are the tracks that are being left behind from Pete. There's not really too much digging in. So the tyres are actually doing a really great job working on the surface. Nice driving there, Pete.
Yeah. This car feels really good. Really good.
Yeah. I mean, it's not chewing up the sand. I mean, I'm actually amazed that these labelled highway tyres are doing such a great job. Maybe we can put that money somewhere else instead of upgrading the rubber on these things.
Good. And I think I didn't notice any sort of those wheel spin corrugations when I was following you earlier. So
yeah, I'm going to just switch this over to manual mode and just see how that is, just to see how quick the gear changes are. I've just put it into first gear just for this obstacle just ahead. And I'm just going to go either side of your tracks because it is slightly chewed up. There we go, nice and easy over there. Super, absolutely no trouble at all. I mean, you do feel the firm suspension obviously on some of these drops and ridges, but you know, it's not upsetting, and it's actually, the car's very composed. Gear change was relatively quick there. Oh, there we go. Oh,
yeah, here we go.
Let's see how you go. You got wheel spin at the back. Stop where you are. The first recovery of the Hilux, imminent. So just under this little flap, there's a wired in single piston compressor. Hopefully for our application, and we don't use these that often because in the reserve we've got our own kits. There's a nice little
There's a hose here.
hose there. Let's take that out and figure out where it attaches.
Okay, you've also got a jack in here and obviously your tools for changing the wheel.
That's really good. So straight onto here, and then
Nice.
wow, looks pretty good. The disadvantage with these types of compressors is to get an accurate reading on the gauge, you need to switch off the compressor, which obviously is difficult when you're down by the tyres. So you've got to kind of go to and from the tyres, so maybe we can do a bit of teamwork with this one. So let's look, I did the tyre pressure at 15. So at the moment it's showing 16 on this gauge, so it doesn't seem too far off. Okay, let's go. So it is a little bit slow, it's 4 psi for 30 seconds. So yeah, we're looking at a few minutes. My maths isn't that quick. What's your mental arithmetic like, Pete?
4 minutes. 36 on the back, 33 on the front.
That's it.
Is that right?
Yeah. That's the OEM recommendations. So I think probably for our everyday use, we want to be using our own twin piston compressors because, you know, we don't want to spend 4 or 5 minutes on every tyre. We'll be here for quite some time, so I'm not quite sure that it's going to be fast enough for our needs. But if you just need an emergency, it's great to have. So I think it's been a fun morning. I think we've got quite a lot out of this, really, as a shakedown for the vehicles. We went into today thinking that, you know, there were a couple of areas that we got concerns about. One was the approach angle at the front of the car. I mean, the sand's hardly touched it. If we look underneath.
I mean, we've had a look and there's not even sand scraped on it, you know, so
No.
they certainly didn't touch at any moment, you know,
Yeah.
any time of
Yeah.
traversing the dunes at all. You know?
Yeah, which is great. And the other thing, what did you think of the tyres?
I think they're fine, actually. I didn't
Yeah.
notice any wheel spin marks. It felt like she was floating on top.
Yeah,
I think the tyres will certainly do for their lifespan.
yeah,
You know, if we are going to think of changing them,
yeah.
I don't think we need to change them any sooner than when they're worn out, you know. I think they will totally tick the box
Yeah.
for the first phase, you know.
Yeah, I think as an out-of-the-box proposition, I don't think we could have found a better vehicle for what our usage is. You know.
And when you consider that total novices are going to be driving them mostly,
Yeah.
I think it's a good package.
Yeah, absolutely. I think obviously, you know, we guide people and we coach them through it. Novices aren't going to drive like we did today. However, as long as they follow some of those basic principles, as an out-of-the-box solution, this thing is great.
It's great. And there's plenty of power there, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice.
There's plenty of power. There's plenty of power. And today we went through a recovery situation. We tested the front points. There are things that we found which I think are useful for people that do take on this vehicle. Things like carrying the soft shackles if you're going to do a front-facing recovery, getting something for the back, so you've obviously got a rear recovery point. You know, there are little niggles with it, but there weren't really anything major that would be a showstopper for us to expand our fleet with these vehicles.
Yeah. I think if we had taken them on a test drive first and then decided to buy them or not, it wouldn't have changed any outcome of what the result is, you know.
A point actually for the Toyota dealer is the fact that obviously they only let us drive it on the road, so it wasn't possible to do this type of shakedown in the sun. I know why, obviously you've got valuable vehicles on test drive, but if you are thinking about one of these vehicles, a great option now for people is to actually come with us, try it out in the sand and see how these things work.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anyway, well done. I think we made a great purchase.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing them all completed, you know? Once
Yeah,
they've got
absolutely.
all the alu cab.
Yeah, I mean, watch
canopies
the
on the back.
space. I mean, watch the space. Another few weeks, we should have the alley cab canopies on the back. These are going to be like awesome camping units, awesome overlanding units. We're going to have a 270-degree shade on the side of these things, the canopies to fit more stuff in, the table that slides into the roof. These things are going to be super cool. I'm really excited.
And once we've got the water tanks in, filled with water, there's a bit more weight on it.
Yeah.
I think the ride will settle.
Yeah.
It's going to be a good package once we complete.
I really enjoyed driving that in the sand. I mean, we've driven LR4s, we've driven the Land Rover Defenders. I found that nice, you know, it was fun, it was also easy. So I think it's capable of obviously everything that we can throw at it through our adventures.
Yeah, let's see how it goes.
Absolutely.
Cool.